Role of a verb is that the verb presents the number of the subject and the role of the subject in the conversation with the speaker. The speaker reveals the information about the number of the subject and the role in the conversation because the speaker is aware that the listeners assign the different importance of the experience, condition, or action according to the subject. The listeners who get the various information from the conversation with the speaker have to accept the important information selectively, consistent with the priority. The priority of the subject is determined with the number of the subject and the role of the subject in the conversation with the speaker. So, the speaker who considers the listeners signifies that the clause conveys the relatively less important information with the listeners have to arrange the information from the most important information to the least important information. The conversation with the speaker. So, the speaker signifies the most important information because the plural number of the subject or the participants in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners, or this means that the speaker prioritizes the plural subject who are the participants in the conversation with the speaker. The subjects who are not participants in the conversation with the speaker. The singular subject who is the participant in the conversation with the speaker. These are 3 cases out of 4 cases. The 1 out of 4 cases that the subject is singular and is not the participant in the conversation with the speaker. The clause that is considered to convey the important information is a clause whose subjects are plural or participants in the conversation with the speaker. The form of the verb in this clause stays within the original form of the verb. For example, there is a clause, the birds visit a park. The subjects of this clause are plural, so the form of the verb to describe the present action of the subject are indicated by the verb visit. The clause that is considered to convey relatively less important information is a clause whose subject is singular and not a participant in the conversation with the speaker. The subject should meet the 2 necessities, and the verb signifies the subject satisfied the 2 necessities. The form of the verb in this clause is converted with the added sound of s at the latter part of the verb. There is a clause. The verb visits a park. The number of the subject indicated by the phrase of noun, the bird is singular, and The subject indicated by the phrase of noun, the bird, is not a participant in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners. So the form of the verb visit has the additional sound of S at the latter part. Visit. The reason why whether the number of the subject is 1 or not is signified is that the concept of the majority and the minority is made from the 3 subjects, adding 1 to the 2 participants of the conversation, the least number of the listener and the speaker. When a speaker communicates with the least number of the listener at the present, the person who did not participate in the conversation can participate in the conversation with the speaker and the only listener. From the point of the participants are 3, the 2 participants can make an agreed opinion. The reason why whether the subject is the participant in the conversation or not is that the information about how the subject of the experience, condition, or action is related to the speaker and the listeners is a factor for the listeners to assign the importance of the clause with the information. The be verb especially signifies the participant in the conversation as the speaker, the listeners, and the non-participant. Compared, a general verb, participant, or the non-participant. The be verb, the participants into the speaker and the listeners as well. The be verb signifies that the clause describes the existence of the speaker, which is the premise of the experience, condition, or action of the speaker as a subject with the form of the be verb am. One of the forms of the be verb am notifies the listeners that the clause conveys the essential information about the existence of the speaker who leads the conversation. The be verb am signifies the clause about the speaker is important because the speaker leads the conversation with the listeners. The subject of the experience, condition, or action in the past or future is not a participant in the present conversation. The past and the future are not the time when the conversation with the speaker happens. This is obvious that the phenomenon that the speaker in the present does not even consider to be the same as the speaker in the past. The speaker himself does not consider the past speaker same as the present speaker. The speaker in the past is considered to be a non-participant in the present conversation with the listeners because the speaker in the past is considered to have the possibility to choose or not to choose to actualize the past experience to cause the present condition because the speaker obtains the new perspective after a cycle of the past experience, condition, and action. The speaker in the past shows an experience, a condition, or an action. That's the present condition. So the speaker in the possibility to choose an option to cause the present condition. So the speaker in the present is the non-participant in the conversation with the speaker at the present. This can be understood with the accorded form of the be verb was to describe the existence of the speaker and the non-participant in the past. There are two examples. The first one is that I was happy. And the second one is that he was happy. The be verb was describes the existence of the speaker in the past and the existence of a male who is not a participant in the conversation with the speaker. The listeners do not assign the highest importance to the clause to describe the past or future point in time because the subject is not the participant in the present conversation with the speaker. So, the general verb, which is not the be verb, has the accorded form irrelevant to the subject. There are three examples. The first one is that I gave you a hint. The second one is that you gave him a hint. The third one is that he gave you a hint. We can find the tendency that the form of the general verb does not reveal the information of the subject, who is not the participant in the present conversation. You can think like that. The experience, condition, or action in the past is mentioned in the present because the experience, condition, or action is important. The speaker who gives the higher priority to the definition of the verb rather than the subject described by the verb does not reveal the information about the subject in the form of the verb. This tendency to these clauses as well. The action indicated by the general verb gave in the past is prioritized by the speaker. The be verb in the clause stated in the past tense conveys the primary definition that the subject existed in the past. The premise that the speaker indicates a subject with a noun or a pronoun is that the subject exists. So the speaker reveals not only that the subject existed in the past with the be verb, but also the number of the subject for listeners to assign the different importance on the clause. There are two examples. The first one is that he was. The second one is that they were. The speaker who mentions about the past existence of the subject gives the priority on the number of the subject because the fact that the subject indicated by a noun or a pronoun premise that the subject existed, but with the description by the be verb, the listeners can assign the proper importance on the singular subject, the plural subject,